Hey, it's Aaron, and today I'm with the all-new 2023 Honda Pilot. This is in the Trail Sport Edition, also new this year. So the Pilot got a bunch of changes. Like I said, it's all new, so it's completely revamped. It's a little bigger on the inside, a little more cargo space, still 3 rows, and still a V6 under the hood as standard. But there are a lot of design changes. We'll go over those, especially when we walk around the side. I'll talk about the interior when we get in there, and we'll look at that cargo space, which is bigger and more useful than it used to be. So yeah, let's get going. 2023 Honda Pilot. Okay, so changes under the hood. Still a 3.5 liter V6, but now there's a 10-speed automatic transmission. That boosts fuel economy by a fair amount. 26 miles per gallon on the highway in this Pacific Trail Sport with all-wheel drive. Two-wheel drive model is actually slightly less. Don't know why. I think it's just the way the EPA test works for some reason. Real world in this, this is rated at 26. I was only getting 25, but I'm at altitude at 6,400 feet. So have to take that into consideration. There is no turbo on this engine. So otherwise, same all-wheel drive system Honda's always had, more or less, new iteration, but same thing. 4th generation Pilot has pretty much the same engine it did before, but now it has a much better transmission for better fuel economy and better drivability. It's not shifting as rough because it has way more gears, so it can stay in its sweet spot way easier. Let's go talk about design, then we'll get in the working end. So looking at design, this is not my favorite color for this. I think there's a little too much blue in this slate gray they're kind of going for. But this is a not too different design from before. So it's a little bit updated, but really in the end, still looks like the Pilot. Not a ton of change in terms of bodywork. That rear window is different if you've noticed, and then some of the lines are slightly different. But overall what they're going for is big SUV. That's kind of the language they're aiming at. You can see with me in perspective here how big this is. So you got the clamshell hood that runs and creates a line here, running all the way across to make your belt line. Ends right here and goes up instead of continuing. And instead there's a new line that fades in right here and runs across there to that tail light. Otherwise, for lines, so this right here is mostly flat, so it's pretty much a flat light shelf there. There's a tiny divot at the top that changes that a little bit, and then this deep groove down here, which creates that shadow to really define that line. Down below that, you've got another line in the bodywork, pretty much what it looked like before. This creates the look of having more ruggedness and a little more room. It just looks like it sits higher than it really does. And then with this Trail Sport model, you have these Continental tires that are a little more aggressive. You have these around the wheel wells to make the gap look bigger than it is. You have the light line from the top of the hood here running across and then kind of melding into the A-pillar there. And then you have it same back there with that center or rear pillar right there. And just kind of overall the look is made to be beefy. It's pretty plain. There's not a lot happening on the hood. There's almost nothing happening on the bodywork here. If this were a more premium vehicle, maybe in a different color, this would look a lot different. But as it is, it looks a little plain to me. I don't think it's as dynamic as I would hope for, especially out of a Honda. Honda tends to be pretty dynamic, and this is kind of, it's just kind of plain. There's really not a lot happening. What I would like to see is a little more accent on this front fender, and I would like to see this be either more accented or have a second line somewhere to kind of beef it a little bit. Just needs to look a little like there's more going on. The other thing that I would like to see is I would like to see more bone line happening for more light reflection. Now, in different colors, this may look completely different, the bulk of the door here. But in this color, it just looks pretty plain. There's really not a lot going on. Roof rails are standard. These are functional roof rails. You can buy the cross members, and there are spots where the screws come out and you can screw it in. So it is a functional roof rail. This has a panoramic sunroof, which I'm not a fan of, but they're very popular in cars now apparently, because everybody's got to have one. Visibility in this is good. I like this new design for that. This pillar has been de-accentuated, and that makes it a lot easier to look over your shoulder and see what's going on. Even though this fat pillar gets in the way, you can still get a glimpse coming this way of what's going on. These mirrors are, Honda's always been good at getting big mirrors. These are no exception. These are nice big mirrors. You can see a lot of what's happening. So wheels are good. I believe these are part of the Trail Sport package, these particular wheels, but really, really cool. They must be because they have Trail Sport stamped into them. So it's a good indicator. Yeah, let's look at the working end and get inside it then. So on the back end here, you can see that plain continues to be the word of the day on the design here. Pretty good overhang on the spoiler here. Small rake, not huge. Pilot in big letters because everybody has to announce their vehicles now. That's a thing now. And you can see it's the all-wheel drive and the Trail Sport model. There is a receiver on this. Towing on this is, I think it's about average. I don't remember what the number is. I'll put it on the screen. But towing on this is not a given. You do have to add it. When you open up the back, really decent cargo space. So this is the third row right here. So the cargo here is pretty limited. This leans back a lot, so your actual floor is right here. Cuts out about 7 or 8 inches right there. But this folds all the way flat pretty easily. You just grab this and dump it. That seat also comes up and down, of course. And there is an optional cargo cover, which this does not have. But in the cargo space here, there is plenty going on. There are D-hooks there and there, so all 4 corners. USB plugs in the back in this model. And now, under here is a huge cargo tub. I will have to show you a photo because I don't think I can get that camera angled down here, but this is perfect for holding groceries. I got a good load of stuff in here and it keeps it from rolling around. Underneath that is there is a kind of an opening on the bottom you can pop open, and that's where you access the spare tire to lower it down to the ground underneath the car. Really good setup, really cool, and this latches shut and comes off. You can easily pull it out, throw it up there, stand it up to make a you know, a little wall, whatever. It's useful. I really like this cargo space. One of my favorites in this segment right now. So yeah, pretty cool. So there is access to the third row. You can see how small and cramped it is. It really is for little kids. There's a button to move this seat forward like this is up here on top as well as down there. So it's easy to move this seat, and otherwise your access is pretty good. I'm not going to get in there because it is really not made for adults. It's made for little kids. So back here in the second row, these captain's chairs are really comfortable. I have lots of room up here. It looks like I'm right up against this seat, but it's moved back, and it's set for me at 6'3" up there. So it would actually, I would have about an inch of clearance right here, plus my feet have tons of room to go underneath it. Also want to point out storage. There's not only this pocket, but there's a phone pocket in that pocket. Really just nice little thinking. Sunshade goes up, covers all the window, not just the major portion of it, but also the pony window that's on the side. There are USB A's back here for plug-in. There's a 115 outlet, household outlet, climate controls back here. Again, this is the Trail Sport model. Tons of room, tons of just space and headroom. I've got, that's 2.5 inches easy of headroom up there. Yeah, just a really good second row. Let's go look at the front. Up here in the driver's seat, I'm a little bit further back than I would be. It will move forward if I start the engine. You have pretty basic controls. Now, one thing I will say about the interior, it got some upgrade from the previous generation, but not a lot. It's still pretty dated. The screen is small and it's attached to the dash like an afterthought. The climate controls are great. It's that push button thing for shifting, which I've gotten used to, but I still don't like. It doesn't save anything versus a shifter that I can tell. I see no reason for it. It's not saving any space. There is a wireless charger in this particular one, and space for at least 2 phones right here in the front on a rubberized container. There's also this right here, which is a good storage space for the passenger to throw some things. You have a really good sized bin over here, and most of the buttons and controls totally make sense. But like I said, kind of dated. These buttons feel very early 2000s. They don't feel current. It just kind of feels like they rushed it. It's not as new as I would expect. Just a little bit out of date. And this is supposed to be brand new this year, so I don't think that's a good thing. But on the other hand, it's a Honda, so you take what you can get, I guess. The instrument cluster is all digital, but it has physical dials, especially specifically the speedometer. So the digital stuff comes up behind it. The speedometer dial moves over the top of it, but you can't really configure any of that. It's pretty much fixed. That's the way it is. They went digital because 1, it's cheaper, and 2, less glare, so it's easier to see. Nice to drive this. It drives really well, feels really good on the road, so I don't have complaints there. I like the way the amount of pep and then the long torque curve, the long flat plateau that a V6 gives when it's just naturally run. This is beautiful for that. Feels really good on the road. So yeah, and comfortable. I will say, for such a dated interior, it is very comfortable. So yeah, let's go wrap this up. Okay, so there you go. 2023 Honda Pilot Trail Sport. For the most part, Honda did a great job upgrading this. I really like the new powertrain, especially that transmission. Really changes things for this, makes it much, much better. I also like this Trail Sport model because it is beefier feeling. The tires give it more aggression on the road. It just feels like it's more aggressive. And for light off-road, it's great. I don't know that I would try to take this for serious off-road, but this is enough that you could go up that slightly questionable dirt road to the lake, towing your boat or whatever, and be perfectly fine. Pretty good in bad weather. We didn't have any serious weather. It is summertime, but we did have heavy rain, and it did just fine in that. So pretty okay for that. I assume with Honda's all-wheel drive, it's not going to be much different than it was before, and it was very good before for inclement weather. So not going to knock it there. I will knock it for the interior, especially the infotainment, and just the overall interior dash. Just kind of looks like they just pulled it out of the last one and shoved it in here and threw a couple upgrades and call it good. It doesn't feel redesigned to me. But I will say that the looks, while plain, are very on par, not on par, they're very on mark for Honda in this segment. I just wish that they would be jazzier with this. There are some competitors that look a lot better than this, especially the brand new Highlander, and well, not brand new, it's a couple years old now, but the new Highlander, which is probably the primary competitor to this, and especially those South Korean makes, Kia and Hyundai. The Telluride and the Palisade have really hit it in this market, and I think that Honda was remiss to not try to compete with that a little bit more. But overall, I really do like this. It is well done for the segment. It's a decent 3-row family hauler. Kids in the back only, but still that's true of most of this segment. You have to get to much bigger vehicles to really get that usable 3rd row. But yeah, just a great vehicle. The only vehicle I can think of that has a better or bigger interior that is otherwise on par with this is probably the Volkswagen Atlas. Volkswagen Atlas looks similar to this, slightly larger, and has an adult usable 3rd row, which this does not. And roughly the same powertrain, give or take, in terms of how it drives. So that is probably the nearest match if you're going to name competition, Volkswagen Atlas. But really, honestly, this is a good vehicle. So 2023 Honda Pilot in the Trail Sport package in this, take it or leave it, kind of blue-gray color. I'd leave it. They're better colors than this.
Subscribe.